not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and FreedomSlips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, FreedomSlips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hello and welcome to Shiny Side Out with
Dave
and Mackie for the second time on WZZR, broadcasting from Australia for Revolution Radio on revolution.radio. I still love that. Where it's more than just radio. So jump in the chat room if you can. Show number 313, 310 and 300. 310 and 300, that's right. And we are talking about Nazi occultism, related super tech, and the things they may have found in the Andes, Tibet, and elsewhere. It's on the air, it's on the line, and it's on your smart device. So grab an app to listen anywhere or listen at home on a Grace tabletop digital radio. If you missed Solaris' show with two guests, as I said earlier, Mary Munoz and her daughter Hannah Thorson, I hope I pronounced this correctly. I caught the end of it. I actually did, and it was fascinating. And I said, as I said prior, they were talking about. They mentioned the Matrix movie as well as we do so often. It's just one of those movies that hits so many points. If you have missed the show, it only costs $5 a month to access the Freedom Slips archives and check out her shows. I highly recommend it. $5 a month. Like we keep saying, that's a coffee in Sydney. Not even a strong coffee. It's just a coffee, a cappuccino. You know, if you wanted just a shot, like an espresso shot, that'll set you probably back $3 or maybe $3.50, right? But if you wanted some milk in that thing, you're looking at $4 or $5. That's just how it is.
I get a large triple shot myself. That easily costs that much money.
All right.
Yeah.
And look, we're paying like $18 for a smashed avocado sandwiches here. Now, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land. For Dave, they are the
Dark and Young,
and for myself, it's the Daruk people. We pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. And just on the topic of movies, there are a number of movies everybody must watch. Before I forget to say it. 1, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Yeah. 2, The Dictator, with the inimitable Charlie Chaplin. You must watch that.
Yes, I've seen that one too.
You have to see it. 3rd, you must also see It's a Wonderful Life. Again, it's one of my favorites. Jimmy Stewart, same as Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. So Jimmy Stewart and the people he worked with made some wonderful movies. And if you watch them with today's eyes, I guarantee you will go, what? They warned us.
They warned us. They did.
Then they did. Then they did. Then back in the day, when America was actually not a bad place. I'm reminded. And look, since we're on the movie topic here for a second, look, you can love the Marvel franchise, you can hate it, doesn't matter. There's some moments that ring true. One was when Iron Man was, he was in the ice, he was frozen. They thawed him, and he came back to life. Wonderful. And he looked around, he looked at the internet, looked at the TV, and he goes, "You have no idea what you've lost." So he was obviously a man from the 1940s, obviously, 1930s, 1940s. In America, it was a very different place to the America that we have today. Very, very different place. And I think he might be right to some extent there. I'm not saying that America was perfect. I do believe, I strongly believe that America, for a long time, was a beacon of hope for the rest of the world. Not sure that's still the case, but it certainly was at one point. And it sort of ties in with today's show as well. Obviously, America was a major participant in World War II and the activities we're going to discuss here, not least of which Operation Paperclip, which obviously everybody's very familiar with. One other thing before I forget it. There was some interesting developments today, during the week, and the key takeaway here is Is there going to be another war? Well, look, maybe. Certainly, people are beating the war drum and whatnot. No, that doesn't mean. Well, we discussed last time how today, or the situation today, is similar to the situation prior to World War One and World War Two, the late 19th century, but also just between the wars during the Weimar Republic in Germany, or generally the global situation. So it's volatile. It is volatile, yes. But also, I want to remind you of the hypothesis, which is really the whole point for this show, where we said in order to prevent the awareness cascade, which we believe could potentially be triggered by a certain population number, just like a spontaneous combustion and so forth, and a critical mass, and all of a sudden something happens. And then we think it might be around the 7.7 something billion mark, which we're rapidly approaching. Look, in order to prevent it, if you're right, I'm not saying we're right, I'm saying it's a hypothesis, right? It certainly would help explain why there have been extinction level events in the past, why civilizations have been wiped out with hardly any trace of memory at all, right? 7.6, thank you, Dave, 7.6 billion. So that is for us just an explanation. So potentially. Secondly, Dave and I, we said when Donald Trump is going to get elected, the one thing we guarantee you is that it will be different to what you're used to.
Yes.
I think we're right. So we called that a trade embargo. Well, not a trade, sorry, tariffs or trade war. Tariffs. It's part of my mission statement for the political party I wanted to start before I realized that I can never sit in parliament because I hold another citizenship.
That's right.
Yeah, right. Be that as it may, though, tariffs, which are essentially instruments designed to protect your domestic industries. Let me give you an example. So you've got the steel, an irrelevant example. In America, it's the steel industry. Massive. It was a massive industry. In fact, it was one of the deciding factors in World War II, having such a massive steel industry, being able to churn out armaments, high quality steel at such a impressive rate. And certainly around Detroit, when you hit the it's called the Rust Belt, but certainly that's where all the automotive
turning all of the automotive manufacturing facilities into war machines. Yeah, that's it.
Correct, exactly. That's right. But it was a powerful machine.
It caused the turning point of being able to just continually throw new hardware out there. Isn't that right?
Oh, look, 100%. Now, the problem, of course, is that in the wake of World War II, something called the Marshall Program was introduced, which essentially created very strong markets in both Germany and Japan. So essentially what the Americans did, they gave the Germans and the Japanese a bucket load of money to rebuild their economies. Smart move, right? Because you're creating markets, you can sell Coca-Cola and McDonald's and whatnot. But by the same token, it also created, as we can now see, strong competition, right? And it's actually not even those guys. It's not even the Germans and the Japanese that are really, causing all this heartache, if you will, in for the manufacturing jobs in the Western world. It's the Chinese, or in general the cheap Asian labor, with the exception of Singapore, Japan, and a couple of other economies. The cheap Asian labor is what really killed it for the domestic market. So what Donald Trump now is saying, in order to have a strong future, a strong economy, and a strong country, as it were, we have to have a strong manufacturing sector. That's still true. I mean, we are moving into a knowledge and even an abstract sort of analytics world, commercially at least. Mm-hmm. But in reality, there's still things that need to be made. We still have to make things, right? And he's right. And you know what? Tariffs will do the trick. Right? And then people go, oh, it's going to be trade war, and it's going to be this, it's going to be that. Well, first of all, what it should mean for America, that jobs should come back onshore, because all of a sudden it's no longer cheaper to produce outside of America, for example, right? Now, that will have a knock-on effect, of course, on some of the goods that are coming out of other countries. Because if you tell me that I now have to pay, let's say, call it 20% duty on the steel that I'm shipping to you, Mr. America, well, then I'm going to impose a 20% duty on your grain or your beef or whatever. Okay, fair enough. Which means that people will have to become more self-sufficient within their own countries as well. So it's actually a protection. So what we are seeing here, as I predicted, is a move away from globalization to a more nationalistic outlook. And I tell you why that is. Because people are scared. People are terrified. People are unsure and uncertain. People don't know what's going to happen because they no longer control their life. All right? I'll give you a simple example. Cloud technology. Everybody says cloud this, cloud that. Most people have no idea what you're talking about, right? We're talking about computing. We're talking about computers, servers. Everybody's familiar. If you see a computer, you know, there it is. I can see it. Thank you very much. Now, cloud just means your computer is somewhere. You don't know where it is. You don't really care where it is. You shouldn't care where it is, but it's somewhere, right? Now, some people care. Governments care. You know, some companies care. You might care.
Banks.
But if you Yeah, banks certainly care. Well, less so. You'd be surprised. But if you use Google Mail or Hotmail, or maybe you're using Office 365 or things like that, right? I'm just giving a few examples here, not pandering. Then you're in fact consuming a cloud technology, and you don't care, I don't think, where it all is. Now, if you are a domestic worker, and you're providing a certain service or make a certain product, then you care where it is. You do care, and all of a sudden, this globalization is a threat to you and your livelihood. If you are consuming a cloud service, then your servers might be sitting in some gigantic bunker in the Philippines, or the Arctic Circle, or on the moon for all you know, right? But it is highly likely that nobody in your country is benefiting from you purchasing that service. It's a highly likely scenario that they're not benefiting because the cheap labor is elsewhere to run all of this, right? It's just not in your country. If you're an American,
cheap
Australian,
electricity, cheap land,
cheap everything,
cheap resources, exactly.
And and tax breaks, all kinds of things, right? So the move then is we are destroying first world countries. We are. That seems to be the plan here, by moving almost the entire workforce somewhere else, because think about it this way. So you all turn to service industries. Sure enough, nobody in your country, right, once you turn into a service economy, will be able to purchase the services that you're selling. It'll all go overseas. You will have created a part-time casual workforce. You will have destroyed your tax base. You will have destroyed your future, because kids should go to school to become telemarketers or tourist operators. That's the only future we have now. So you got to think about it.
We can lower the employment age then, Mackie.
To 12.
5.
Yeah.
As long as they can answer a phone and push the button on the screen, they're good to go. And I think they're all right with that.
I was more thinking coal mine, but yes.
A coal mine. But their little hands can reach further. Yes, I understand. Right?
Look, and this is a problem, right? So, sorry. So, do I disagree with Mr. Trump? No, not at all. Not at all. In fact, I think tariffs are the only thing that can save some economies. But the globalization, the only people benefiting in the end from globalization are the executives, the CEOs, the VPs, the presidents of companies, right? The shareholders, the rich people. That's who benefits, because. Let's say in India. Let's look at India. Okay, globalization has done a lot for India. It's pulled it up from poverty, and well, that's not true. People say this, but it's not true. A tiny fraction of the population in India is benefiting from globalization. The people that got the tech jobs, living in or working or living near the business parks that have been built there. So those guys have a good life, absolutely. And without globalization, they probably wouldn't. But that's a tiny, tiny fraction. The rest of the country ain't that lucky, okay? And that's the same elsewhere. Unless that's a very switched-on leadership and power, and they do, all kinds of good things, let's call it, to simplistically for the country, for the people, great. But that's just not the case. So the people that benefit in the end are the rich, that hold the shares, that hold the positions of power, because they will move to the next labor market when India becomes too expensive, as we are seeing today.
They're already moving away from India.
It is moving. It's moving into China. It's moving into Vietnam. It's moving into the Philippines. It's moving. And when that becomes too expensive, they're going to move to Brazil or Cameroon. Oh, well, it's actually not Cameroon anymore, is it? Or Sudan or wherever. They're going to move somewhere where it's cheaper. In fact, by that time it might be Australia, because we're going to be really cheap. So, yeah, look, that's where we're.
Mackie, it leaves a trailing, because you're only benefiting the current small population in the new country as the labour force moves from one third world country to the next third world country, leaving a trailing poor who now don't have those opportunities available to them anymore.
Right.
Mm-hmm. They have bigger debts than they ever had, and now they're unable to pay them off and going to pay them back. But the countries, as you mentioned in your opener, the country of the, say, Australia or the US, if you offshore everything, ends up having a part-time employment, coring the middle class. If you don't believe in class, good luck with that. It does core the people who pay the most tax. That tax goes to the government. The government ends up starving itself of taxes. It doesn't know why, but most of the income goes offshore.
Yes, correct.
So this problem that's exasperated by companies wanting to save $3, and they send their, it's a company who is only interested in profit will send their, some of their workforce overseas. This problem doesn't seem to be going away. I like the tariff idea because these are steps towards actually making America great again. I have to agree. Bringing back manufacturing is the number one thing. What are you going to do if you're a service country? You got nothing. Yeah. How many people are going to be able to buy off Amazon, for instance, when no one has any jobs? That's exactly the thing. Right. And this is what all of the Australian business leaders right now have been patting themselves on the back saying, hey, we've held off, pay rises for 10 years. We're doing awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the country isn't.
No.
Collectively, no one can buy any of their products. And this is we're seeing a huge downturn, and it's not recovering very, very fast. It's not recovering very well, although there's a lot of hope mentioned in every news, at the end of every news day. A lot of hope that we're going to get better. It's going to get better. Interest rates are still on hold, Mecky. This is the status we're in. They're actually forced to say historically low, in the hope that we get the idea that, well, we should acknowledge that they're really low and we should start spending again.
Mm-hmm.
Even the ads on TV, even the ads, there's an ad, which it's, I'll remember the song a bit later on, but the song has actually got the word spend in it. It's all about spending money. Spend. Spend. But it's a famous song that they've rewritten, and the word spend is in ad. Shop, not shout. It's called shout. I think the song is called shout, but replaced shout with shop. And so this thing, my kids are singing to themselves, is all about shop. I've got to go shop. Dad, can we get in the shops? No. You don't have any money to spend any money. Oh. So this whole thing, I think, and I'm going to hand it back to you in a sec, Mick.
Sure.
Is that if we can generate this patriotism within the country of origin, whoever you are, wherever you are, listening to this globally, to be able to bring back these jobs. I mean, look, everyone used to be able to generate enough profit for the business having onshore workers. Why can't we just do that again? Surely the software that allow us to still reduce our workforce, but be able to expand the number of companies serving that product. And Meckie's right. One of the big problems with offshoring, not just your data and clouding stuff, is also the jurisdiction of your data. Where is it? Do you care? Should you care? Probably. You should probably care about where it is. Like if you have an iPhone and do an iPhone backup of it, because it's got an online backup thing, iCloud, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know where it is? No. Who's got access?
It's in the cloud, man.
It's in the cloud. It's in the cloud. But where is it? What is the cloud? Where is it? And who's got access to it? You don't even know. You don't even know. Yeah. So, look, it's a problem if you're like a bank or a health fund, for instance. You're going to have issues with jurisdiction, and you need to have it encrypted across the entire path from where you are to where it is, because that's not even guaranteed. Even where it sits, it may not even be, may not be secure. This is the thing. So just from just taking it back to the world perspective, We got issues, and we have to solve them.
Oh, we do.
And we can't just let the globalist companies solve it for us, because they're the ones driving us down this road. And they're only after a profit. Good for them, right? That's fantastic. Does it fix us? No. When we let the largest companies of the time tell us how, workplace safety should be, there wasn't any. And they had crazy hours, and there was no safety in the workplace, and children were forced to work 12 hours a day in the mines. So if we bring it back from the people's point of view, that we should be safe in our work, we should earn a reasonable existence doing
communist.
I get that from my
Pinko,
dad. My
greeny,
dad
lefto.
calls me a pinky, greeno, lefto, lesbian, lefty communist.
All red-blooded males are lesbians.
That's true. So this is the funny part, is that it's actually quite difficult. And I think these first steps, Mackie, from a populist president, is making these changes.
Yeah. Look, is he unpopular now with the elite? Well, I'd say so. I mean, he's working against a plan that has been put into motion many years ago, and they were getting close, but then it all fell apart. Because they moved too quickly. I'll tell you what happened. This is what happened. It was too quickly. Right? Now, what do I mean by that? Okay, so the League of Nations failed, but World War II comes along. We're fighting the good fight. That was probably the last just war. The last just war. If you've ever studied political sciences, you know what I'm talking about, or even philosophy. The notion of a just war, the notion of a conflict, that justifies the use of force, a just cause. World War II could be probably, it could be argued that falls into that category. And out of that comes the United Nations. Beautiful. There it is in New York, centered. It's got the World Court in Germany, in Belgium. And in The Hague, there's not in Belgium, in the Netherlands, and then all these wonderful institutions are all over the shop. Here, there, and everywhere. These global institutions, and there's like this talk about the one world government. The global parliament, blah blah blah. Then Russia falls, yay, hooray! Soviet Union is defeated, yay! Yugoslavia, yay! Also gone, yay! Germany is reunified. Woohoo! Yay! Hurrah! And that's the point. It all fell apart. They pushed the European agenda way too hard. Right? The euro was a mistake. The German reunification was a mistake. It was all too soon. Too much. Too soon. That had a knock-on effect on everything else, because Europe, believe it or not, was the engine for globalization. Europe traditionally was very divided. Let's call it divided. Even though they ethnically, pretty much the same people, it was completely divided. It was horrible. Wars all the time. They're fighting each other, killing millions, whatever. So along comes the European Union, United Nations, all that stuff. Wonderful, kumbaya, hey, look at us. And they pushed it. They pushed it too hard. Now Great Britain has exited. Right. The euro is teetering on the verge, I believe, at least, of collapse. I don't think the euro is a currency that's going to be with us much longer, for various reasons. I mean, you've got too many disparate economies in the European Union using the same currency. It just doesn't work. It's foolish, right? And now there's secession talks from other countries as well. I want to leave here, I want to go there, and even smaller entities like the UK is now talking about, we're going to break up. There's going to be independent Scotland, whatever, and that's all over the world. Countries are being split in two. The Sudan, I think, was one. And recently other countries, they have split off even small entities in what used to be the Soviet Union. And the fragmentation goes on and on. Andorra is looking, to reassert its independence. The Catalan region of Spain around Barcelona is looking, and we saw it quite openly recently, its independence. And many other enclaves.
Massive protests around the
world. I was there.
That aren't...
I was there for it. It was completely peaceful. It was completely peaceful, right? But yeah, look, yeah, everybody wore yellow t-shirt. They were busing. There were hundreds of buses that came to Barcelona that day, hundreds, and people. There was no violence. It was like almost like a picnic atmosphere, right? So that's where we're at. It's just globalization. I think really is not all what it correct. It really hasn't worked out for us. And I think there's a move toward a more nationalistic view of the world now, especially because, like we said last time, we no longer have the polarized superpowers. We have a number of superpowers that are, old and dying maybe, and others are emerging, old but emerging, and new and emerging. But look, that's all I wanted to say about this. It took half an hour from our show, but I think it's important that we have to know where we are in order to understand what we're talking about here, and we have to talk about what we talk about today, especially around the Nazi history, in order to understand where we are today. So it's sort of like a closed loop that way.
Do you know, Mackie, just on this topic as an aside, talking about these kinds of things that we're bringing up can do your YouTube channel in. Just simply talking news, talking about news, talking about the news that the mainstream are talking about, but from a different angle, without a criticism, just merely, say spitballing ideas around, can end up with a deleted channel, all your videos gone, no excuse, nothing, and that's it. That's the internet. I'm not saying that it's going to happen to us, but we've been demonetized. Let's put it that way.
No. Hang on, Dave. Let's be clear. We have lost a bucket of our archives. Yeah,
I know, and they just disappear. There's not even a reason for it, and now we're keeping them all and only uploading. So at any time in the future, we could just throw them all back up onto YouTube again on a different channel. But this is the problem, is that censorship now is now global. We didn't vote for it. We didn't want it. And I dare say, having an open mind and talking about the current topics, I think, is to have benefit the planet. However, keeping flat Earth out there and isn't. And I think, Mackie, when I see what is being censored and what isn't being censored, it has to be to divide and conquer.
Oh, completely.
Just keeping us even, if it's even possible, more stupid.
Yeah, that's tough, but I think that they're succeeding.
Because, really, it's mind-numbing. Unless, of course, Mackie, you're an ex-Russian spy.
Well, that's different.
Then, you did jail time. You've now got a safe haven in Britain, for instance. But you're not off the radar. Or neither is your daughter. They know who you are, where you are, what you do. Everybody knows. And I'm just talking about that recent attempted hit on Sergei.
Yeah. Well, he's not out of the woods yet. I mean, let's be clear.
No, he's not out of the woods. No. So. And it was a nerve agent, apparently.
Yes.
Now, coming to his aid was an off-duty police officer and his daughter. And they're in hospital now, having come in contact with them, and that's not good either. So I don't think at the moment they've mentioned what it was, whether or not they know what it is, could be unknown. But it's frightening. I as soon as I heard this one, I reminisced back to the poison tip umbrella. Yeah, but now it could be really simple. A nerve agent. Just a swab on the back of the hand. There you're done.
Oh, yeah.
That's the end of you.
Easy. Yeah. In fact, you don't even have to be there. You can just leave something somewhere, then touch it. Done. Thank you very much.
Yep, that's right.
It's very sophisticated, this technology. Unfortunately, I guess, but it's sure. And is anyone safe? No, of course, It just. I'm surprised though, and this is, I guess, the odd thing. The timing.
Am I surprised ratio?
Yeah, but why this guy? Why now? What does he know that could be? I don't know, so wrecking someone's plans, throwing a spanner in the works. Because you have to understand that these things are never entered into lightly. If he was in fact, well, let's say, if there was an assassination attempt by another power, by another national entity, which this might be, I'm not saying who, but it could be, right? Then clearly that entity would know that eventually they would be found out. I mean, if a nerve agent was used, they don't grow on trees, these nerve agents, right? They're not mushrooms. They actually are manufactured. That's right. And usually they can be traced back. But so the question then is, okay, so they don't care to be found out, number one. Number two, and even if there was, even if there were serious repercussions from being found out, clearly eliminating this person outweighed those considerations significantly. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been done. But it was done. So because it was done, we know that whatever he knows, or she knows, for the matter, is important, and important enough to risk these diplomatic difficulties, right?
Did you know even the ambulance was treated as it was infected? The actual his own car was taken away by a military vehicle, hoisted up and driven away. It's extraordinary. Now they do claim, Mekki, that they've identified which nerve agent it is. But they're not going to make it public.
Well,
clearly you don't want a copycat.
No, not only that, but look, the thing is if the investigation is ongoing, right? Maybe you don't want to tip your hand, whatever. But the point is, if they did say it was in fact someone that we suspected might be, then that could cause all kinds of public backlash.
Well, that's true. I didn't think of that. So you might have if they say a foreign actor.
Yep.
That's what they call it now. Maybe if it was another Russian spy that was just given, we've all seen Bourne Supremacy and Bourne, movie. It's more than trilogy now, isn't it? The franchise, the Bourne franchise. If you've seen that, look, this stuff is real and it happens. Yep. This is evidence of it.
Of course, it happens. Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, and they're always capturing each other, and there's always exchanges, and they release all their top spies back again, But this thing, Mekki, about what did he know and why was it important to cap him?
Mm-hmm. That's it.
And it must have been done in a crowd, and it must have been done publicly. A handgun could have done it, successfully in one go. So they didn't get. Maybe they got the work experience kid.
Well, it doesn't have the same impact though, because I think apart from obviously wanting to eliminate a target, you also want to instill fear. So if I can, this is about psychological warfare.
Yeah.
So if I make somebody sick in a horrific way, and you remember the attack on previous targets, right? The infected person died in the UK. If you look at that, you go, maybe I'll think twice before I do what I do, right? It is really about making a statement. So he probably knew something. They don't care about the diplomatic fallout, and it is a statement. It's a public statement, and in fact, I'm sure there are other spies, whatever out there, that might have defected or might be thinking about defecting. They're probably going to think twice, right? We're going to get to you. It might take a few years, but when we do get to you, we're not just going to kill you. No. That's too easy. We're going to give you something so horrific that you will suffer in the process.
Wow.
All right, let's be very clear. He's
got to be a serious threat then.
Well,
what he knows has to be a threat.
It has to be, right? It's just, again, look, will we ever find out? Highly unlikely, right? But you never know.
I hope he's passed the information on to the relevant people.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, maybe he'd already done it. Who knows? But you're right. Playing the hand could spoil the game, so they probably don't. The last thing I just wanted to bring out there was the information that Mekki brought up a little earlier. We've both seen this video that's come out recently, and there was one quote in there that the only one I want to bring out is that an insider has told someone else, not us, and they've told everybody that on top of the 150,000 troops there are at the Chinese border on the Chinese side of North Korea, they've added a complement of another 350,000. That brings it up to 500,000. 500,000 troops. So when I hear that kind of thing, and the only other main point from the video was they radio ahead. Everyone radios ahead what's going to happen, and they know for months and months and months and months and months. So, you know, if I chopped that video apart into just a few phrases, does it seem like something might happen? I don't know. I'm not going to put my money on it. But it might all be just word games, buying for a bargain, a business deal, because Trump's really into business and business deals. He's not the mafia. He's not going to assassinate his competition. Who knows? Who knows what the outcome's going to be? Not me. I'm certainly not party to it. But I might suggest that maybe the threatening behaviour and the threatening stance and the talk is all about just trying to get people to the table willing to negotiate.
Look, I agree, but the troops in China,
Yeah, troops. That's different.
that they may or may not have posted near the border of so North Korea obviously borders China, right? So I honestly see, this is what I think. You have to look at what China is today. Just recently, the leader of China just secured his future.
Oh yes.
Well, like Yeltsin in a way, but we have a strong Chinese.
Unlimited position.
Exactly,
duration.
right?
Yeah.
Now the guy is a smart guy. Under his leadership, China has become more Western than the Western world, right? They are the only successful capitalist society on the planet at the moment, right? And yes, they're. But interestingly enough, it's because they've got a very strong centralized planning and 10-year plan, 20-year plans, and so forth. So, like I said before, in order to make a country great, you have to have forward vision, which China has. If it came to a conflict with North Korea, I'm 95% sure that China would weigh in on the side of the United States. 100% sure. In fact, 100% sure. And because they have got too much to lose by aligning themselves with a guy that, well, if this person, you know, if the North Korean leader actually does start something, then we know he's unhinged, because that's
suicide.
If you see the movie The Mouse That Roared with Peter Sellers,
yeah.
no, it's a movie that was made after World War II, I think in the 60s or 50s. Essentially, there's a little small principality, you know, like Montenegro or you know, Monte Carlo, like a little small country, fictitious country, and they were doing okay, but they were not doing great. So the leaders of the country decided we want to do well, we want to, you know, be rich, and the best way to become rich, they thought, was to start a war with America. And you go, what? Hang on. Well, what? No, because they know they can't win it, right? They know they can't win it, but they looked at Germany, they looked at Japan, they go, look at all these handouts, the Marshall Plan, there's billions of dollars flowing in those countries. We're going to start a war with America, and we're going to lose. Now, you know, the movie's a comedy, of course, and goes on. I think in the end, they win, which isn't at all, not at all what they were after.
It wasn't what they wanted.
Not what they wanted. But this is what North Korea reminds me of right now. It's this the mouse that roars, because it's a conflict that is unwinnable. It is unwinnable by North Korea. In fact, forget about MAD or mutually assured destruction. That's not even on the table. That's completely different deck of cards, right? Okay, it's not. I don't know what he's doing. He's playing Monopoly. Actually, no, he's not. He's playing Uno. Everybody else is playing poker, right? And he's showing his hand and goes, what you know what? Well, that's a full house. You're done. Thank you very much. Off you go. Everything on the table is now mine. That's what it is. That's exactly what it is, guys. It's unwinnable. Right? Can he do damage? Of course. Can it be horrific? 100% it can be horrific. But it's completely unwinnable. And again, China has nothing to gain by supporting North Korea. It's not like there's this massive, you know, power consortium, you know, North Korea, China, Japan, Australia, Brazil, Africa, all, you know, huddling together. North Korea is isolated, right? Pretty much. It doesn't have too many friends. And throwing in with North Korea would be complete insanity. But you know, so what is he? Maybe he wants to get to the table, Dave. Maybe he wants to have a seat at the table and say, "Hey, I'm a big boy too. I got rockets. Look at me, and I can now go. You know, I got ICBMs. Look at me." And Donald Trump, I remember this. He said it. He admires him. He took on power when he was really young, and he says, "Yeah, I'd like to meet him. I'm impressed. He's running a country. He's obviously he's reflecting on his own I guess upbringing and way to power. He
Yes.
started.
That's right.
So I think he feels a certain simpatico with Mr. North Korea there. I'm going to call him Mr. Haircut because he's got the best haircut.
Mr. Haircut.
Mr. Haircut.
The kinship between the two of them from their upbringing, yes, I completely agree with you. That there must be something there. But I think that's just, once again, a vehicle to the point of a discussion.
Yeah.
They've got the starting point, and it could be done, and it could be done really well. The only thing, Meki, is the North Koreans don't forget. They don't forget. They don't forget about the US. I think there's a lot of grudge still there. Clearly, there's a lot of grudge. His video that he released to the world about him blowing up America in New York, very funny. I appreciate the mouse that roared stance that he's taking. But, it all said and done, if any military might of the three big players on the planet decided to go against North Korea, there would just be a South Korean island.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
The Gulf of North Korea. The North Korean Gulf.
Yes. They'd become fishing, more. They'd rely heavily on fishing and more ocean trade, Meki. I can see that. Now, how would you... My question is, how would you let all of those refugees escape while only purely targeting the government, the infrastructure? I think that could be a little tricky.
No, but we can't. In Syria, that's exactly the problem that Syria is facing, or has been facing for the last couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. People are trying to get out. They were given a few hours to get out here and there. I mean, the women and children that have been killed is now in the thousands, right? Mm-hmm. And the problem is they can't get out. They cannot get out. So the same thing happens here, or will happen. I mean, there won't be any refugees. I don't think. I mean, there may be, sure, but I don't think there'll be a lot, right? Because I think the death rate, the attrition rate will just be horrific.
Way too high. If you were South Korea, you just open the border and just shoot anyone that had a weapon coming across the border or something. I don't know how you would even begin to deal with that. But it is certainly a big issue. It's right on the table right now, and where the world is holding their breath, waiting for the end of the Winter Olympics.
Well, that's an interesting scenario as well, isn't it? I mean, it certainly it made the whole thing a lot more interesting just to see the interplay of these things, because his sister is a wanted war criminal, and the South Koreans allowing her to be in South Korea for the Olympics actually irked the Americans to quite a bit. There was so it was interesting how the South Koreans played that one. I have no idea what to make of it, except they clearly do not want a war. I mean, I wouldn't either if my capital city was 50 kilometers from the border. I go, no.
You can
war is a
with
bad
tank
idea.
Shells. That's right.
Rocks, slingshots, my friend.
Well, apparently, Meki, when you do your history, you'll find that the North and South Korea, they've been tunneling against each other underneath the what's that zone called again?
Demilitarized.
The DMZ. I should know that from a firewall perspective. Yes, they've been tunneling under there. They've got sensors to listen for tunneling, and it's no doubt riddled with tunnels.
Yep.
And they could just pop up everywhere, and this is what the Korean War was so difficult to fight, was for that same reason. I'd be convinced that the conflict would be a bloody foot soldier battle, but be bombed from space. Just nuke it from space, I think, would be the plan. I can't imagine any other option. Otherwise, the losses would be far too high.
Oh, I completely agree.
Yeah.
But what we might see as well, I mean, this could very well be the advent of the first robotic soldiers in combat, potentially. You know what I mean?
Atlas.
Because we're there now. It's like you look at the recent advances. You know, the robot that does flips and such and
Yeah, that's
falls
right.
down.
Yeah.
I mean, that's. I mean, actually, when I see it, I feel terrified. I'll be honest with you. It's a terrifying thing to see. It's also cool, but unless the 3 laws of robotics that Asimov dreamt up are actually hard coded, I mean, in the CMOS, right, unerasable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unless they're there, I don't want to know about it. Okay, it's not going to happen. I don't want a special military issue either. Oh no, we don't need the first 2 laws. That's
That's
okay.
what they said. We've
Yeah, well-
actually found that news story.
Yeah,
But
I remember.
Yeah, DARPA funded Boston Dynamics, purchased by Google. Look what they did with the Google car, Mickey. Now, within 18 months, they've got let's just call it a sentient, may as well be sentient Atlas, robot. Which what they were going out for an exoskeleton, ended up doing an endoskeleton version of a robot. Take the human out of it. It's playing like RoboCop.
The humans are so yesterday.
So I think that's the frightening part of that whole thing. I'm just waiting for the door to knock and the robot to ask if if I'm Sarah Connor. I swear.
You
We're
are.
so close.
You will no longer live. Are you Dave Danga?
Yeah, that's right.
Stay here and you will die.
Come with me if you want to live. That's the problem that I'm seeing. I see this. We're so close to that. And when I watch those videos with a guy with a hockey stick bashing out the box that the robots picked up, that's the first guy on the chopping block when they're sentient.
That's right.
They'll remember.
Remember me. I have come for your blood.
There's the top of the break. Look, we'll see it after this short break. We don't know how long the break's going to be, but it's always a surprise.
Yes, don't go away. We're going to go to the topic after this, guys.
Awesome.